We're just moments away from UFC 280, which many people have been calling the most stacked card of 2022. With 2 title fights and barn burners on the main card, there seems to be some confusion as to who'd be the backup for the lightweight title fight. In this video, we'll look at what Beneil Dariush said about losing a title fight opportunity to the featherweight champ. First up, why Beneil thought he'd be the backup. Whenever there's a big title fight on pay-per-view, the UFC tries to get some kind of backup, just in case either fighter involved in the main event gets injured or can't make weight. We've seen it happen with fighters who don't have fights on the same card showing up and making weight while getting paid for just that. There are also instances where there's a fight in the same weight class on the undercard and one or both of the fighters are told that, if anything were to happen, they'd be fighting for the title, which forces them to make championship weight right on the dot. Beneil was in the second category. He was told by his manager, who talked to the UFC while negotiating the fight with Gamrot, that he'd officially be the backup for the title fight. This was many months ago, right when the main event was announced. Beneil was assured of that, but as time passed, the UFC decided to change their plans and he wasn't really told about it, which created this confusion and made Dariush a little upset. No one can blame the company for wanting their pound-for-pound king to be fighting for a second belt, but at least let the guy know so he is not expecting anything. Next up, why did the UFC change its plans? It was early in October when the featherweight king, Alex Volkanovski, announced on his Twitter that he was officially the backup for the vacant lightweight title fight. Volk had been vocal over the last few months about wanting to be the backup and getting the title shot next, but Beneil, on the other hand, still believed it was him and maybe Volk was playing some games. Alex showed up in an interview and clarified that he's very serious and was told by the UFC that he'd be the backup. A contract was signed and now he's flying all the way to Abu Dhabi. The champ suspected maybe Beneil was told earlier, but he shouldn't expect to get a title fight. It does make sense as Alex is a much bigger star and also the #1 ranked pound-for-pound fighter who might face the second-ranked pound-for-pound guy in Charles Oliveira. Now, who'd want to miss that fight? Volk said that in an ideal world, he wouldn't want to be the backup. It was tough to train for both guys and have an entire training camp without knowing if he was gonna fight. But he wants the next title shot, and the only way to make sure no one takes it away from him is to show up and make sure everyone knows he's next in line. Let's look at Dariush being frustrated over losing the title shot. During the fight week on Media Day, the #6 ranked lightweight took out his frustrations about losing the spot being the backup. He understood Dana's decision, as a champion fighting for a second belt was a much bigger draw. But it sucked for him because he was fighting Makhachev for a #1 contenders fight, but because of an injury, he pulled out. He didn't expect the Makhachev fight to be rebooked and knew he had to fight one more guy to get the opportunity. What sucked even more was the fact that none of the guys in the top 5 wanted to fight him. Benny wanted to fight Islam, and if that fight wasn't happening, he wanted to take on Dustin Poirier, but the UFC wasn't making that fight happen. Gaethje fought recently and just went through surgery, so the next ranked guy was Michael Chandler, who the UFC didn't want to make that fight either. It was later announced that Poirier and Chandler will fight each other at MSG. Dariush said that they're supposed to be athletes, not superstars, and as an athlete, you should want to compete only with the best guys. And since he's on a 7-fight win streak, finishing guys left and right, and with wins over plenty of high-ranked guys, they should call out his name, but no one seems to do that. He also thinks that he might be the most avoided man in the lightweight division because none of the top guys want to fight him. Next up, we'll look at how Volk would be compensated for being the backup. If there's one thing the fans are always curious about, it's how much a fighter's getting paid. As a dominant champion in the featherweight division, being undefeated in the UFC and on a 21-fight win streak in his MMA career, Alex the Great is certainly taking a big risk by putting it all on the line for a potential double champ status. So the question had to be asked, is he getting paid the same amount of money as he usually gets, or will the UFC add something extra for all the troubles he's gone through? Volk said that he's getting the same money as he usually gets when he's fighting someone else, so if he goes inside the cage, he'll receive that same amount, although we're not sure how the pay-per-view points add up. Alex also talked about how he was the one who went to the UFC asking them to make the backup, so it wouldn't be the best idea for him to negotiate a lot of money from them when they already have another guy who wants to jump in. If you followed Volk's career, he's always been about maximizing every opportunity, and he's so confident in his capabilities that they don't seem like a risk at all to him. Before winning the belt, he weighed in on one of Max Holloway's title defenses as a backup. It's safe to say he'll be getting much better compensation now than he did the last time. Coming up, would Benny have fought Gamrot under different circumstances? Dariush has established himself as the dark horse of the lightweight division. He's on a 7-fight win streak and taking on one of the most dangerous contenders in the division who's ranked a lot lower than him. Now, when you've won 7 times in a row, you're bound to get a title shot. Many people squat on their rankings and don't risk losing that opportunity. But Benny is a total gamer, and he's taking on a guy who statistically might be one of the best guys at lightweight. Dariush said that he just wants to fight against the best guys. Gamrot could easily be ranked in the top 5. That's how good he is. The 33-year-old wants to fight often, and if he can't fight for the belt, he wants another dog just like him who he can compete against. On an episode of Embedded, Beneil's wife talked about how they might not have made the trip to Abu Dhabi if they knew he wasn't the backup. It would have been a lot easier to wait a few weeks and be the main event on another card in the USA, but they wanted to be on the same card just to jump in if the opportunity presented itself. Dariush had a daughter last year, and she's just 19 months old, and it's hard for the whole family to travel with him for weeks halfway around the world. Can't help but feel for the guy for what he's going through. Finally, Dana White said Volk in next. The president of the UFC was asked about the professionalism of Volk for showing up to Abu Dhabi to save the card if that's needed. It means that he'll be rewarded for his efforts and get the next shot against the winner. White said that it makes sense for that to happen next, just when you thought the situation couldn't go worse for Dariush. And now, he's got to go through a dangerous contender in Gamrot to dispute this decision. Both men involved in the main event were good with the idea of Volk getting the next shot. Makhachev had some reservations, mostly because he thought Alex was too short to fight at lightweight, and people might not count that win as legitimate. But Islam liked the idea of going to Australia right before Ramadan and defending the title there. The uncrowned champ, Bronx, took it a step forward and said he'd fight Volk for the lightweight title in January on the Brazil card, and the two of them can now fight again a few months afterward in Australia for the featherweight title. So really, each champion gets an opportunity to defend their belt. Because Charles missed weight for his last fight at lightweight, it would be almost impossible for him to make featherweight. But if anyone can do it, it's him. That's a wrap for this video. Who do you think should get the next shot at the 155-pound belt? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.